And then I looked at the gas valve and I was like, wait a minute. This cannot be turned off. That valve is up against the wall. This is improperly installed. It doesn't turn the other way. It only goes towards the wall, so you can't even shut this valve off. That's problem number one.
What's up, guys? JC Needed here, personal finance enthusiast, property owner, investor, and online business proprietor. Today, we're going to be covering a video about why new construction is not always the best way to go. And we're going to be covering a video today by a channel. This guy's channel is called Inspect Flicks, and I'll link to his channel in the description, so check him out. He's going to go through a new construction walkthrough and point out things that a lot of times are missed or done wrong with new construction.
This video is going to provide information of why you should not waive your inspections when purchasing brand new construction. I'm in the state of Michigan right now. I've been doing home inspections here for over 30 years, and I want to clear up a few things about inspections. There's a difference between a private real estate home inspection and a code compliance inspection. Private real estate home inspections are for existing dwellings. Code inspectors, those are designed for when you're building the actual home. And there's not just one inspector, there's several inspectors. You have the structural inspector, you have the mechanical inspector, you have the plumbing, electrical, and there's also energy audit. Speed process. They're building these houses way too fast, and you have contractors building on top of each other, and that's how you get some problems. So let's get a closer look at this one right here.
Okay, really quickly before he goes any further, I want to tell a quick story, so stay with me here. My former neighbor, he was a volunteer firefighter in my local community. There is a ton of new construction going on in the area that I currently live, and they're building new homes and new apartments like it's nobody's business. My neighbor, who was a volunteer firefighter, used to speak all the time with the man who would go and do inspections to see if the new builds were compliant with certain codes that were related to fire safety and fire hazards. And he told me directly across from where I live, there's a new development that just was built. And in the time it was being built, he said that the fire inspector was telling him that those homes were one accident away from going up in flames. They had to have like 3 or 4 rounds of code inspections because the first 2, 3, 4 of them failed because they just weren't up to code. And then finally what they did was they just met that minimum threshold. I mean, I can't tell you the name of the material he mentioned because I just don't remember it, but the material they were using was so low grade, he was saying it was just a matter of time, which is super scary. And these homes are obviously being built, what, 2024-ish. So it just goes to show you a lot of these new builds, after COVID especially, when there were the shortages on supplies and supply chain issues, and it was hard to find good labor, a lot of the homes being built were not built up to snuff. So he's gonna go into a little bit more of that here.
The code inspections are designed of the location, what state you're in, environment, and how it should be built. And that's going to change in all these various areas. However, what a lot of consumers don't know about.
One more quick stop, I promise you guys to let it play. He just mentioned something about the area, and that's very important. Another quick story. I'm friends with a realtor. I knew her for a long time, and she's really big in the area I'm in. And she was saying that there's a builder that came to where I live, and they're from the West Coast. I'm on the East Coast. And she was saying that the homes they were building were sinking into the ground because the way that they know how to build is on land from the West Coast. And so here the land and the ground is different. And so the way they built should have been changed, but they weren't familiar with the land here where I'm at. And so now that all these new built homes that they built are now having structural issues. They're sinking, left is going down further than the right. It's really bad. So there's homes that have I've been inside of homes before, friends' houses that bought new builds, and literally you can see their floor from one end to the other is slanted or sloped to a significant degree. So again, that's very important what he just mentioned.
Is the actual products that are made, from shingles to air conditioners to furnace to the appliances inside your kitchen. All these types of materials have a warranty from the manufacturer that actually makes the product. They don't install it, the builder installs it, but it has to be done within their standards of installation requirements. If it's not installed right, they can waive their warranties on the actual material. All right, so today is July 10th, 2024. On the counter, I had found this piece of paper, which is the Byron Inspection Department memo. And you'll notice in the remarks it says, final building inspection approved on my part. I'm going to show you another approval stickers from the electrical and the energy audit also. But let's go on the upper sections I renew my builder's license every 3 years, and when I go into that class, that training instructor tells me that I've never seen a code inspector get up on the roof. I asked him the question and he said, no. There are some fun facts that I learn every time I go in there. My training instructor always says, 1 in 10 builders actually has a license. And that's a scary thought of statistics. So that means a lot of contractors that are working on homes don't even have a license. The other thing is the code book is rated at a D-. That's coming from my training instructor from the state of Michigan. So let's start right up here in the front with the cladding. Cladding is the siding.
So when I bought the second property that I bought in 2019, it was an older home built in the 50s, and I had an inspection done on it. The inspector did not get on the roof. First property we ever built, I bought with a couple friends. Inspector did not get on the roof. This is a personal property inspector, not the building inspector he's talking about. So a lot of times they're not going to get on the roof. They're going to stand back, they're going to look up, and they're going to go, okay, it looks decent, and they're going to put on their report that, you know, they didn't check the roof. And of course, a lot of it's because safety concerns. They don't want to get their ladder and climb up. But I've only ever had one inspector climb up on the roof. And by the way, I'm not a big time investor either. I only have 2 properties, not to say only like it's nothing, but I do have some experience, and I did with friends buy another one. So all in all, I've had a little bit of experience with buying properties. And like I said, these personal property inspectors, they do not tend to get on the roof. And so we've had issues with leaking before and what have you. So I'm not surprised by this.
Fascia, soffit, and trim. This type of trim here, there's nothing in the code book that requires caulk around edging of trim or channeling. And this particular stuff here is just extremely loose. It just pops right in. And down here, you can see, this is how I found it. It's loose, and I mean, back in there, you're looking at the house and water, or the ice and water shield, which is a code requirement. That's good, you know. So water can still get in here. Well, that's okay then. They say that the ice and water shield is going to protect it. No, in fact, you don't know how that condition's going to last or function in the future here. It doesn't take much but just a little bit of caulk or silicone to get this to stay in there. Any high winds can easily take this kind of stuff off. There's another one over here. This trim board here, there's only 1 nail in it. Look at this. I'm barely touching that. This could come off real easy. 1 nail. Then we have the soffit. This is loose. This is how I found it. Where the birds are going to get in. And when you cut your lines here on this fascia, you don't overlap them like that. This is very sloppy. Very, very sloppy. And then, with all the working that they've been doing up here, a lot of these are scuffed. And once again, scuffing up or improperly installing shingles can void out the warranty. Let's go take a look at a few more areas over on this other side. Once again, scuffed up shingles. This ridge cap, they did not replace the sheathing underneath this. You see, what a lot of builders do is they will cut out that roof sheathing and leave an open space on that deck board to install the ridge venting. And this is where the air flows out of the attic. Well, they drop that blade and they keep cutting, and now this is all missing the roof sheathing. So then they just put standard shingles over it. You see, this has a house framing on it. This now doesn't. See, I'm pushing my thumb down in that. See that? And that's how water's going to get in every one of these.
It's one thing to use non-licensed people to do small handiwork around the house. Let's say, I don't know, you need new flooring done, or you need to caulk the bathroom tiles. Things like that. Put in counters even. Stuff like that doesn't have any structural component to it, or doesn't have any electrical. Anything that has electrical, plumbing, structure, you need codes. You need a license. And so this to me is mind-blowing that these builders, I'm not sure what building company this is that built this, but these well-known builders you'll drive around and see are using essentially people that don't really know what they're doing. Or if they do, they're rushing. For whatever reason, they're really rushing, and they're making these sloppy mistakes, or maybe they're not mistakes, they're sloppy, just careless errors.
Look at that. And there's another spot up on the upper section too. Let's take a closer look down here. But this is a rain diverter. It's a kick out. So when water's coming down this way, it kicks it away from the siding into the gutter, so it doesn't find its way behind the siding. I still find these missing sometimes on new builds. Now over here, it's like a needle in the haystack, but look at this. That's a nail hole. Somebody drove a nail right through there. Didn't patch it.
Sloppy.
But it shouldn't be patched. The shingle should be replaced. Here's another thing I find. Lots of nails left here. I'll grab those later. But looking for the needle in the haystack, here's one right here. See it? That's the nail head. It's out of its pattern. This is supposed to be underneath the shingle here. And this is somebody not paying attention when they're just whacking it in with their air guns. Let me show you another one on the back side here. Again, we've got ridge venting, very good.
Let's move this to the inside of the house.
Plumbing stack.
Bit. Let's see what we got here. Move this to the inside. Oh, wait a second. Let's see what this is about right here.
Gable, and this is cut too short. It just slides right over.
That's crazy.
This is going to be taken by the wind.
Wow.
Wow.
Right. Wow.
And then this should have been cut a little bit lower down on an angle. Then they just put some silicone in there. As you can see, it's not even completely covered all the way. Right here at the garage eave area, this is your fascia. This is your drip edge. And this big old gap here is allowing birds to go in here. You can actually see all the way through to the other side. So you're going to have weather elements getting in here also. This gap should not be like that. That is not good. Soffit material.
All right, guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and skip to the inside of the house to see what he says about that. Right now, he's been outside the whole time. Let's see what the inside looks like, what they did there. So let's go ahead and skip forward here. I think here, okay, let's just go to the inside of the house. Let's see. That's like some electrical stuff, actually. Let's see what he's saying about this really quickly.
Then, when they did backfill this, they pushed it so much to the point where the below-grade electrical service is now been pushed towards the house front. Normally you'd find this exactly plumb, but it's not. And now I can't tell you what that cable looks like from the power company, but they pushed it in too far in this section here. One pitfall I see right here, it has nothing to do with the backfill, but the gas meter is not anchored to the siding properly. You don't put any screws or nails through vinyl siding. You see how they bolted this right here? Yeah, that's wrong. There should be a cladding of aluminum and then channeling around it, and it looks just like this right here. So this is not mounted to the vinyl siding. This is mounted to a board back there, and that should be the same thing like this. Vinyl is designed to expand and contract during the temperature changes from winter to summer. So, okay, before we go all the way around, I want to point out why you find decks built improperly on brand new construction. That's because this finalized house, they allow them to put just the handrail at the sliding door, and that's approved. You don't get the deck. It is safe. However, code inspectors are gone. Homeowners come in, a subcontractor comes along, doesn't pull a permit, or the homeowner decides to build it themselves, and typically the deck is improperly installed. As we come around here.
Okay, so I'm gonna insert a video clip here of this same guy giving you an example of someone who built their own deck. They finished their house, they built their own deck on a new build, and you'll just see how scary this is, all right? It's pretty shocking, so take a look.
But I've been finding a lot of homes that are built without the deck. They put a handrail in the slider and walk away, and then the deck is built afterwards. This is homeowner installed. They didn't pull a permit to do this. There's so many things wrong on this deck. Post and beam. The post is supposed to be notched out for the beam to sit into the notched out areas or sit on top of the actual post. The joists, they don't have the Simpson tie brackets. And then down here at the end, the last two boards, look at the length of this, two different sizes. And now this deck is very loose. Let's dance.
So there you see, perfect example of what he was saying. That deck was wobbly. Would you want your family out there on that thing? I know I wouldn't. That thing's like 2 seconds away from collapsing. I mean, I'm no building inspector, but I mean, if I'm gonna go buy a house, new or old, I'm checking anything that involves structure, okay? Especially a deck. I walk on the decks, unless it looks too crazy, like I'm gonna fall right through it. I'm no thank you, I already know. If it looks like, you know, it has a couple ghosts that built it, I don't know, that was stupid. Anyway, check the deck, check anything that's structural. And these videos are very helpful because it gives you an idea of something to keep in mind whenever you go to do your own inspection. Things that you want to have your own checklist. So as they're going through with your personal property inspector, or even whoever the inspector is for your new build, hey, I see this should be this way. They can be like, oh, you know, do your own research. They're not expecting the layperson like me and you to come there and know what we're talking about. But thanks to guys like this, we can be prepared with information so that we go to these inspections and they're just walking through like nothing's. They might see that panel is pushed to the left, or that roof is not correct. There's a big old hole in it, and expect you not to notice it. But you're aware. You're aware now, and so now you can be your own self advocate. So I'm a very, very big proponent of this. So let's keep on going. Let's see what he says about the inside of the house.
The appliances are not in here yet, so this is not roughed in with the electric and the plumbing on a dishwasher, the stove, and the refrigerator. The stove area, it's nice. They have the option of the gas or electric. And then I looked at the gas valve and I was like, whoa, wait a minute. This cannot be turned off. That valve is up against the wall. This is improperly installed. It doesn't turn the other way. It only goes towards the wall, so you can't even shut this valve off. That's problem number one. Problem number two is I smell gas. So let's do a little test on some gas leakage. Kind of a smaller leak, but it's there. Okay. So I'm going to tag that. Now let's go take a look at.
How scary is that? Gas leakage is one of the most scary things in the world. And a lot of times, I think he said he smelled it. Let's say this person buys this house, they want electric appliances. They put an electric stove in, thinking, okay, no problem. Don't worry about the gas. All the while, the gas is leaking. One spark. I mean, this to me is like, I don't even know what to say about that. Wow. All right, guys, so I think we've seen enough of this. I think you get the point. This is absolutely ridiculous. The gas leak alone is enough for me. The gas leak alone is enough for me. Like, that's just crazy to me. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen. That's a liability waiting. That's a liability for the builder. Although I think he said that a lot of times they have things that they can use to waive their liability. And this is why we have to have these types of, this is why whoever, Inspect Flicks, thank you so much for this video. This is the type of stuff that people like me and you need to keep an eye out for when we go do when we're buying a new house, old or new house, especially new builds, because that's a fancy setup, gas or electric, cool. But can I at least turn the gas off if I'm not using it? Crazy. So the way I'm gonna end the video off, guys, there's a clip I found. She's a woman, she's talking about her nightmare story of buying her new build, okay? So take a look at this. I've used this in a previous video, but she's gonna talk about her nightmare story about buying a new build. Listen to her, and I mean, again, just another warning for all of us to do our due diligence. So take a look.
This is a story of a terrible home buying experience. My husband and I were recently in escrow. We have an awesome real estate agent. She has gone above and beyond for us, and we love her. As a first-time home buyer, there are a lot of things about escrow that we didn't really know, so we were definitely relying on the expertise of a real estate agent to kind of navigate the waters with us. If you don't know anything about buying a house, you're in escrow as the buyer. That's when you get to like write up all your contingencies, or basically everything that you see that is wrong with the house, and then you send it back to the seller and you play this tug of war until you agree upon, and then the house is yours. So on Monday, we paid inspectors to come to this house to do like the usual sewage, drainage, the overall house inspection. I cannot emphasize this enough. You need to pay for your own inspections. Do not let the seller pay for your inspections or do the inspections on your behalf. Because, Oh my God, what we found. First off, we're in San Diego, and it's been really popular for developers to come into San Diego, buy up these homes, do shitty flips, and then put them back on the market and hope that somebody just buys it. And this slimy, terrible development company, they got us. As we were doing inspections, we got all our disclosures back, and the inspections on face value were fine. There was nothing super alarming until we got the disclosures back. I'm not a real estate expert, so I do not know what a disclosure technically means, but from my understanding, it's basically the state of the house as per whoever lived in it. So it'll say like, oh, this is in this condition, this is in this condition, this is in this condition, etc., etc. You have to disclose all of those things when you're selling the home. As developers, they can write, I don't know, on every one of those things because they've never technically lived there. So we got the previous disclosures from the original owners of the house. And guys, this house had black mold in it. All over it. Under the entire foundation. Our real estate agent basically said that the home is probably not livable and should probably be torn down. And then our real estate agent did some more digging. The development company that is listing this home has been sued multiple times all across San Diego. They've also changed their name 3 times, so you could no longer find the previous name that they were previously sued under. So needless to say, we have canceled our sale for this house, and we are no longer in escrow.
There's some things she did that I would say were on her. She mentioned a few times she was not aware of certain things, like what a disclosure is. So that kind of, and you know, she leaned on her realtor heavily, yet she said her realtor did the due diligence after the fact on some things. So there's some things that I will put on her that she should have done her, like watch videos like this. It's available to all of us. Google some things, ask more questions. So it's not all not on her fault, but nonetheless, it still gives you another example of how with these new builds, it's not always the way. Not saying that you should avoid new builds totally, but just because they're a new build doesn't mean that you can just willy-nilly walk in there like everything is kosher and say, oh, it's good, it's new, it was built 2024, 23, whatever. I know it's built to a certain standard. I don't have to worry about it. Clearly not the case. Anyways, with that being said, guys, if you stuck around to this point, I really, really appreciate you so much. I would appreciate also if you could give the video a like. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you feel so inclined to subscribe, if you got any value out of it, entertainment, any knowledge, anything at all. And until next time, make smart financial decisions.